provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Of course, it is Friday, the 17th of October, 2025. It is the Festival of La Marguerite. Vive la Marguerite. And we do hope that you're having a fantastic celebration indeed. And we're on to program number 1469 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. If you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you also have the option of reaching us via WhatsApp. That is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. A bit of history for today, going back in time to the year 1854, where British and French forces bombarded Sevastopol for the first time during the Crimean War. 1907, Guglielmo Marconi's company began the first commercial transatlantic wireless service between Glass Bay, Nova Scotia, and Clifden in Ireland. 1943, on this day, the Burma Railway, built by Allied prisoners of war and Asian laborers, was completed for use by the Japanese Army. 1973, on this day, OPEC oil ministers use oil as an economic weapon in the Arab-Israeli war, mandate a cut in exports, and recommend an embargo against unfriendly states. And in 2017, on this day, October the 17th, Islamic State headquarters in Raqqa was declared under full control of the U.S.-led alliance by Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF, spokesperson Talal Sello, after 4 months of fighting. We now move on to our dish of the day.
Every bed in our hospitals tells a story of someone's mother, someone's brother, someone's friend. And when that story of care is complete, it's time for the next chapter, home. But too often, discharged patients are left waiting hours, days, weeks, sometimes months, not because they want to stay, but because no one comes. We understand life gets busy, but every extra day they wait means another patient, perhaps in pain, perhaps in crisis, can't get the bed they desperately need. So when the call comes that your loved one is ready, please be ready too. Pick them up, bring them back to the comfort of family, where healing truly continues. Because caring doesn't end at discharge, it continues with you. A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, as I mentioned, there is being celebrated today here in St. Lucia one of the two flower festivals right here in St. Lucia. Of course, the Feast of St. Rose de Lima back in August, the end of August, the 30th, and this one today, that of the Feast of the Marguerite. Is actually the Feast of St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, and she was a French visitation nun who had seen quite a number of apparitions of Jesus, and began a whole area of the veneration of the Sacred Heart. You have many of these fraternities still about to this day, and somewhere along the line, these two feast days seem to have taken on perhaps different meaning for the population here in St. Lucia, and many have suggested that they are almost allegorical in terms of their representation of the roses and the marguerites, the flowers. Very interesting interpretations because of the names, rose, marguerite, the colors that they are associated with, and as well, it would appear that by the 18th century, the turn of the 18th century, it even took on a bit of a political connotation between those who may have been allied to the crown versus those who were allied to the republic. And of course, during the French Revolutionary Wars, we saw quite a bit of that. Those who may have wanted to maintain the old traditions versus those who wanted change and reform. And so, of course, it is a very old tradition that we have still maintained right here in St. Lucia. And in as much as it is, of course, about pageantry and parades and songs and festivity, it was not always that way. In fact, sometimes even according to the likes of a contemporary historian of his time, Henry Herbert Breen, writing back in the 1840s, described how sometimes the two camps might even end up in full-blown warfare on the streets of various towns in St. Lucia. So it is certainly a very rich historic tradition that we have, in fact, maintained these flower festivals. And it makes us unique. It makes us pretty special, no doubt, because I think up to now, I think we are pretty much the only island that still has them in this type and form. And if, of course, it is also an opportunity for learning about ourselves in that regard. I think you look to so many events that are being popularized, taken from all corners of the world, and showing the the pageantry, the interest of various traditions that have grown up in various parts of the world, and they're celebrated on Instagram, on TikTok. You can find videos of traditions like in Catalonia in Spain, where they engage in building towers, human towers, where you've got level after level after level of individuals who are pretty much piling one level upon the other. The smallest, of course, the children have to climb up so many different levels to create these human towers. And it's a remarkable feat. It's a great cultural, display, which is certainly captured, and it gives identity to those traditions in that part of the world. And so right here in St. Lucia, we have some of these very unique traditions ourselves, which have taken root. And I think certainly we do need to ensure that they have good context and good meaning for the young people who are participating in it. Of course, we are in the throes of the Creole Heritage Month. The last Sunday in October is the day we mark that festival, Journée Creole, and of course the 28th of October being International Creole Day. And it is certainly part of that period of time when we give recognition to what has been, of course, part of our identity, certainly framed our identity as St. Lucian. So no doubt this festival comes right in the midst of it, and quite often is seen as part of that Journée Creole tradition. So certainly lots to take in, lots being done by the likes of the Folk Research Center in ensuring that once upon a time, of course, we used to have 4 different venues all around the island. What has seemed to have happened is that you still have the two main venues, but pretty much every community has sort of embraced Journée Creole. In fact, many businesses as well, many institutions have embraced Journée Creole, and they take it on and do their own events and try to ensure that it's a time for merriment for their staff as well as their patrons and clients. So, of course, kudos to those who are doing just that and who continue to make the efforts in respect of that tradition. Of course, we were talking about sometime this week the matter of the Nobel Prize and the importance of the work that is being done by a lot of these individuals, scientists who are doing lots of really remarkable research at this point in time. And, you know, we may not necessarily see the impacts today because it may very well seem as if it is science fiction. Certainly, in fact, in our history of the day, we made mention of Mr. Marconi and his, and this is going way back to 1907, over 100 years ago, completing the first commercial transatlantic wireless service. And that whole concept of being able to send messages across vast distances wirelessly is clearly not something that we, that at that time would perhaps may not have been thought of as being feasible. And of course, due to the scientific research, due to the research being done, and you're seeing the applications of the research coming to the fore. And that's certainly really, really powerful, of course. And today, telecommunications, wireless telecommunications is ubiquitous around the world. And to the point where we're no longer even on, right now here in St. Lucia, there was a time when we were talking about TDMA phones and then moving on to GSM. And now we're on to, well, there was a time when we were talking about 2G and then 3G. Now we're talking about 5G and beyond. And of course, the continuous change and pace at which these things are happening, quite often we may think it is science fiction, and the science is becoming a reality. The many things that we maybe 60, 70 years ago would have thought that could never have been, they in fact are becoming quite a reality in fact within and in front of our very eyes, that we can in fact witness, even though we may not even be able to see some of these things. And so just a very quick reel, I think, just to explain a little bit on the side of the physics prize, and the three individuals who in fact won that prize this year. Very, very short clip, that just a little reel that kind of gives context to what they were working on.
The 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics goes to John Clark, Michel H. Deverett, and John M. Martinis for their groundbreaking work on quantum mechanical tunneling. So what is that? It's when a particle passes through a barrier it normally shouldn't, like a ghost walking through a wall. Their research proved this. Strange quantum effect can happen in real electrical circuits, opening the door to faster, more powerful quantum computers. Another big win for science. The 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics goes to John Clark.
Of course, thanks to that, and of course, the work that is being done in creating quantum computing is really fantastic. And again, it's certainly going to certainly change how we do everything that right now, and the possibilities, the speed at which information is going to be changed and analyzed is really, really tremendous. One of the areas that I think is just interesting how it has changed our understanding of ourselves as a result of so much processing power is even in things like DNA analysis. And it probably took however many years for the first genome to, in fact, be analyzed and mapped. And then since then, thanks to the rapid change in computing power, we're seeing these things being done in remarkably fast time, to the point that we're understanding and we're looking at who we are. And the beautiful thing about the DNA is that it's almost like a a time capsule looking back in time in terms of the history of human beings, and they can now begin to even make estimations as to potentially how many human beings were around at certain times in the year in the past, and how that is in fact mapping how our ancestors have changed. It's really creating a really interesting story now in terms of analyzing who we were, where we've come from as human beings, and even before we might have even been considered human beings. So it is marvelous, the power that we're seeing as a result of scientific advancement in this regard, and the advancements that we're doing in terms of computing. So very powerful tools that we are now being able to utilize, that is allowing us to find amazing things in right here in our own world about ourselves, but even beyond. When you're looking at exploration of space, again, lots of really powerful equipment that is now allowing us to be able to do analyses of the planets near stars, which are light years away, and the whole search as well for life. And that, of course, is also another remarkable achievement with respect to human endeavor and human scientific research. It's quite often something that, or things that people believe, maybe too much money is being spent on these things because we can't see the immediate gain. And of course, we are dealing in a world where there is so much inequality. There are so many people who are going without. And of course, you have some of these scientific research projects that are effectively taking large amounts of resources, whether it's computing power, whether it's literally, water. Right now, for example, as a result of the rise in data centers in so many countries, you're actually finding that, and these data centers are taking up not just electricity, but they're also taking quite a lot of water as well for the cooling systems that support these data centers, because of this whole craze that we're having with respect to artificial intelligence. The infrastructure that it requires are these data centers. And you're finding that in some places you're dealing with water shortages. So that whole issue as to how do you strike a balance between the desire for scientific progress and research with the needs, the immediate needs of everyday individuals. But the argument quite often is that there may be this one big area of research that may very well be life-changing for billions and billions of people, for all of humanity. And so that is why there is, it might seem as if it's a risk, it might seem quite often as if it might be resources that are put into things that may not necessarily immediately yield anything. But the reality is as well that the advancements that we've been seeing that are changing our lives right now have come out of scientific research, technological innovation. And so it is very important, yes, to strike a balance, but you still certainly do have to engage in that pursuit as well, because who knows, those may be the things that will allow for unlimited supplies of energy. The desire to be able to have cheaper energy for the rest of the entire world. It's one of the major things that people are looking for. They're looking for energy to do all the good things that we want to be able to do. And if you can unlock some of these areas, the research that's been done in nuclear fusion, for example, and other areas, these are transformational areas that could certainly change human beings, humankind, in a very, very big way. So certainly, what has to happen, though, is that there must still be a system of values where we, in fact, respect human beings and their opportunities, their rights to be able to survive as well. Because in this pursuit, you can quite often get to a point where some individuals, some become highly powerful, highly influential, highly resourced, and many others end up suffering as a result of those types of pursuits. And that is certainly also not what we, I think, as a human society, human collective, would want to see. And so certainly the value system has to be able to ensure that people are really at the center of that pursuit for betterment. That's our dish of the day. And of course, when we come back, we'll take in our weather report and then head to the phone lines.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Every bed in our hospitals tells a story of someone's mother, someone's brother, someone's friend. And when that story of care is complete, it's time for the next chapter, home. But too often, discharged patients are left waiting hours, days, weeks, sometimes months, not because they want to stay, but because no one comes. We understand life gets busy, but every extra day they wait means another patient, perhaps in pain, perhaps in crisis, can't get the bed they desperately need. So when the call comes that your loved one is ready, please be ready too. Pick them up, bring them back to the comfort of family, where healing truly continues. Because caring doesn't end at discharge, it continues with you. A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs.
It's now time for your weather report, brought to you by Island Style.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous tiles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And the forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between east, southeast, near and south near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. Weather fair to occasionally cloudy skies with a few scattered showers. Forecast for the Lesser Antilles. Over the Leeward Islands and the northern Windward Islands, partly cloudy to cloudy at times with moderate to heavy showers and thunderstorms. Elsewhere, fair to occasionally cloudy skies with a few showers. The tropical weather outlook. The shoreline will continue causing cloudiness, showers and thunderstorms over the northern half of the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, the Atlantic high pressure system will be the dominant feature across the remaining part of the Lesser Antilles. A tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. This wave is expected to affect the region on Saturday. Another tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. Some gradual development of the system is possible over the next 7 days and is expected to bring heavy rainfall and gust winds over the Windward Islands later this week. And that was your weather report brought to you by Island Style.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to the lunchroom at Radio Caribbean International. The number to call and tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. And of course, the matter of that CCJ judgment coming out 2 days ago is evoking some reaction from some of the concerned parties, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, as well as the United Workers' Party. We look at what their views on the judgment are. But first, let's go to the phone lines to take in a call. Good afternoon and welcome to you. What's on your plate today, sir? Wonderful. Well, there's already an American base in Antigua, ironically. They do have No, but currently they do actually have an installation somewhere on the north side. Yes. The United Kingdom. Yes. That's right. Ships. Yeah. It was a ships for bases agreement. That's correct. It was an agreement, and Mr. Yes, yes, that's correct. That's correct. Sorry, I'm not hearing you. Say that again. No, Grenada didn't have. I think Jamaica had on the north end. Antigua had the current VC Bird airport was an airfield, a military airfield. I think in fact, currently they have a naval installation on Antigua up to this day, very close to that, to VC Bird. Then there's also, of course, as you mentioned, St. Lucia, which was one of the very first ones. 2 bases, one at Redway, which was for seaplanes, and for because at that time they used the seaplanes to do the surveillance and also to drop depth charges against the U-boats, and here in the south at Beanfield. Right. Yeah, I do believe that. I mean, they've been, well, you talking about radar stations. Yes, we're hearing you, caller. Yes, we're hearing you very clearly. Okay. Well, thanks very much for calling nonetheless, though. And but I think your point has been made regarding that entire matter. Thanks very much. Have a good one. And of course, we went a little bit down memory lane, indeed, in terms of the context. And one of the reasons being suggested, especially in terms of Grenada, is which was the first country that the U.S. seemed to have reached out to for locating equipment, is because, of course, of the Grenada Revolution and the Grenada invasion. The anniversary, I think, is quite recent of the Grenada Revolution. Of course, but that period back from in the 1980s, early 1980s, right up until 1983, when the invasion in fact occurred, and that was just after the assassination of then Prime Minister Maurice Bishop in Grenada. Of course, that was in the throes of the Cold War, and Grenada had embraced lots of assistance from and cooperation from the Soviet Union as well as Cuba, and their airport at Point Saline being constructed with assistance coming out of there. Of course, the Americans saw it as a potential place for Russian bombers to land. They saw it as a potential threat. Of course, Grenada saw it as an opportunity to grow its tourism industry and to get a proper international airport. The airport before that was up near Grenville, the Pearls Airport. And so, but of course, that is how quite often many of these things are characterized. And so, yes, the benefit of investment in these military installations has helped quite a number of islands over the years. And of course, in the case of St. Lucia, our international airport was built through the using the what was placed down by the Americans at Beanfield, but expanded with the assistance of CEDA, the Canadian International Development Agency, back in the 1970s. And many other islands went through that very similar situation in Antigua as well, a similar situation there with their international airport. Trinidad, a little different, but Wallerfield, that in fact is now being used as the home campus of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, UTT. And they've also used one of the southern runway over there as a race course, a racetrack for drag racing and other auto sports in Trinidad. So certainly, the new tensions that have arisen in the Caribbean are certainly perhaps going to be utilized as a sort of a divide and rule approach, and that's being touted by some that this might be the approach of the United States of America. Is the Caribbean going to take a holistic approach, a CARICOM-wide approach in this matter? We'll have to wait and see how that is in fact panning out. But of course, quite recently, in one of many drone attacks on vessels in and around Venezuelan waters, it appears that one such vessel, in fact, had two Trinidadian nationals present, two individuals coming from the north coast of Trinidad and Tobago, a region called Las Cuevas. Many persons are familiar with Maracas Beach. Las Cuevas is a little further out on that north coast road, and it is, of course, an area where there is a fishing village and very remote on the north coast. And those two individuals met their demise on a fishing vessel, it would appear, which had other occupants. The individuals, I think, for being suggested is that those two persons were out in Venezuela and were heading back home, and they met their demise. So, of course, the actions that are being taken right now by the United States are pretty hard to determine what exactly, and in terms of drug interdiction, if that is in fact the appropriate process to be able to fight such matters. I mean, they're effectively destroying, utilizing military-grade weaponry to destroy vessels. There does not even appear to be a desire to try to intercept these vessels, but merely to completely destroy them. And of course, the loss of life that we are witnessing with these individuals, it then becomes a little difficult then to determine the veracity of, or to validate, in fact, whether there were drugs or contraband or things of that nature on board these vessels, and to give it context. Of course, we are very much aware that there is quite a lot of smuggling that is going on between the Americas and American countries, and because of the drug trade. And this is something that has been a long-standing fight. The question marks, of course, why Venezuela is being pictured so much, and that type of action is being taken on Venezuela or Venezuelan citizens, as well as, of course, whoever else is on board, versus the situation in Colombia, in Ecuador, in many other parts of the region where you actually do have perhaps even more, contraband and illegal narco trafficking going on. But let's take another call at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hi, caller. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Right. Yeah, it appears to be that, certainly, because I don't know that they would ever be able to get away with that kind of thing in the United States of America. Or I mean, look, if there would be a similar kind of treatment upon U.S. citizens by another country, right? In terms of, let's say a country like it doesn't have to be any Iran, but any country in the world to say, hey, a United States citizen was found supposedly with something, doing something wrong, and we executed him. And then there was no show of evidence, nothing at all. I'm pretty certain that the United States would not take kindly to that kind of approach towards its own citizens. Yeah. And let's also say very clearly that, of course, we know that there's a major problem in terms of narco trafficking. This has been a decades-long issue. The United States of America is very much involved in that. They are a destination for a lot of the drugs that are heading onto U.S. streets. We know the whole scenario. We all want to see this sort of thing, this matter tackled, but it, of course, has to be done in a fair way, and there have to be safeguards for citizens. Yeah. 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 Well, thanks very much for that, caller, for that statement, that intervention. It is certainly going to be worrying as to how those things are going to be dealt with. It's always a sad situation where we're speaking about loss of life. And there was this clip, I think, where, the grandfather, I think, of one of the persons who was killed in this boat attack was speaking and, insisting that his son was not a drug trafficker. He was not involved in any of that sort of thing. And, some will come out and say, well, you know what? Of course he's going to say that. Of course you're going to get that. We've heard that quite often where we see many of these instances, and a family member comes out and says he was a good boy and that kind of thing. But it is, that's why there is a whole system of justice. That's why we want to ensure that people are innocent until proven guilty. And so the whole sense of having the law and the systems are to be able to protect the innocent. You may have a situation where, for argument's sake, maybe 75%, 3 out of 4 of the people found on the water between Trinidad and Venezuela may be involved in some form of illegal activity. But then what about the other 25%? Is it going to be a situation of we're saying Peter pay for Paul, and therefore everybody suffers in that sort of way? And is that is it in fact, have we now decided that people are going to be executed without any sort of trial, without any sort of due process when it comes to these matters? And is execution, is capital punishment now to be determined as the effective way of dealing with these types of situations? I mean, these are major issues that certainly, I think, need to be looked at within the context of how these matters are dealt with, because it's a very, very slippery slope. And certainly, this whole concept of extrajudicial killing is a really serious one. And I think what we're seeing may have real implications as to the approach for the rest of the Caribbean. Today it might be, it might have been Venezuelans last week, it might have been Trinidadians yesterday, and who knows who's going to be a target or who's going to be impacted by it tomorrow. So certainly something to wake up about. Many will say that there's very little that can be done in terms of dealing with, of course, a superpower. Are we seeing a return to the bit of the Monroe Doctrine in this regard, and how the United States is viewing the rest of the hemisphere. I think there are a lot of major questions to be answered. But of course, we are seeing that there are attempts at using the Caribbean for different purposes. And of course, we're seeing the requests being made regarding the matter of equipment for surveillance. We have also, I believe, seen in some instances the request for the Caribbean to be used as a third state, as holding countries for persons who are to be taken out of the United States, persons who have been deemed to have been unlawfully in the United States, to be sent to these countries, not necessarily to the country of origin, but to other states where they would pretty much have to stay until they can be perhaps sent to where they in fact have come from. So yes, it's a very ticklish thing, situation, and of course it appears as well the desire is to use a big stick approach in dealing with these little islands in the Caribbean. So it's a matter I think we're going to have to look at. We've seen what has happened in terms of the Cuban medical missions and the threats that have been made in this regard. We've seen some persons, even in Grenada, for example, becoming targeted because of their positions on maintaining the Cuban medical programs. So there are implications, certainly, in terms of the Caribbean and how we move forward in relations with the United States while maintaining our relations with other Caribbean countries like Cuba, like Haiti, like Venezuela. So we have to wait and see how the position of CARICOM is going to be, very tenuous one, in dealing with these situations. Another notice coming out yesterday, that from the government indicating that funding has in fact been signed for the Castries-Grosley, the Julian R. Hunt Highway. 2 loan agreements being signed up in Washington, D.C. by representatives of the government, the Ministry of Finance, signing on to 2 loans with the OPEC Fund, as well as the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development. The gross amount is $33 million US when you combine those 2 agreements for that project. And this is for 2 phases of the project: the Shock to Marisol section, as well as the Monjiro to Grosley section of the Castries-Grosley Highway, or the Julian R. Hunt Highway. Some much needed relief, of course, and the intention there is to look at the entire 6-kilometer link from Shock up to Grosley, dualizing the carriageway, so 2 lanes up, 2 lanes down, with a number of roundabouts to be constructed along the way at the significant junctions like Marisol, like the Bois d'Ouage area, like Monjiro, Redwi, the Laritret junction as well, Rodney Heights junction, as well as in the Beauséjour Grosley intersection as well. So good to see that, of course, that the loans are in place, because quite often now, of course, the government will now have to go through the parliament for approval for the borrowing, but these 2 loans have in fact been signed onto, so that hopefully work on that link, which of course has been long-standing, is hopefully going to start relatively soon. Of course, pending some ongoing work that is already happening on the Norbert Vieux-Circuit Caref Link, about 3 kilometers of road currently being undertaken by CIE and a design, finance, construct arrangement to in fact upgrade that road. And they've been doing a pretty quick job of it. Lots more work to be done, but certainly the improvements in terms of widening that road have been tremendous and have certainly already made traveling and travel time along that road, even as it is being constructed, you're already experiencing significant improvements in terms of motorability. So hopefully it will be very great to see it all come together very soon. We're going to end the program at this time. We do hope that you have a very, very good Thursday. We'll be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another program. But did I say it? Oh, sorry. What I'm saying, it was Friday. It's Friday today. We'll be back next week, Monday, for another program. Do have yourself a wonderful day.
We now head into the digital half hour.
This is Turn Up Radio, 101.1 FM.
The future of communication is here. Say hello to eSIM at Digicel. Use your Digicel number without a physical SIM card in your phone, and your data, minutes, and SMS all there. eSIM works with prepaid and postpaid. Activate more than one eSIM on the same device and use multiple phone numbers without a physical SIM card. Convert your existing number for only $10. Switch to Digicel and get a free eSIM, free 30-day plan, and 30 gigabytes data free. Digicel, first to give you eSIM technology in St. Lucia. Available at any Digicel store. Digicel, better connected.
Imagine, sometimes it's feeling like there's only 2 days in the week. Yesterday was Monday, and look at that Friday afternoon. So hear that. Do you have a talent or skill that you can turn into a business idea? Well, don't sleep on you, my youth. Get your business started today. The Youth Economy Agency will guide you. Provide funding. Yes, sister, provide funding. Plus training to run your business profitably. Yo, go online now to start living the St. Lucian dream. Just one click and boom, you're in business.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous tiles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and Vieux Fort, or call 450-452 or